No movement, no proof, just darkness and pressure, but that's not death, that's preparation. And when the conditions become perfect, the seed doesn't ask for permission. It bursts, it breaks the shell, it rises. You are that seed. And what you're feeling right now is the crack in the surface. And listen, this isn't about rushing. This isn't about forcing your life to change through panic, pressure, or desperation. This is about realizing the stage has been set for your breakthrough the entire time. God has been arranging what you couldn't see, aligning what you couldn't control, and protecting you from what you weren't ready to carry. The timing is perfect because you are different now. You've learned, you've evolved, you've survived what would have shattered the old version of you. You've reached the point where you can finally grasp the wisdom being offered and not just understand it, but embody it. That's why resistance doesn't serve you anymore. Clarity is knocking, and deep down, you already know you're ready to open the door. One of the most misunderstood parts of spiritual growth is surrender. People hear surrender and think it means weakness, giving up, losing control. But surrender is not defeat, surrender is alignment. It's the moment you stop gripping life like it's slipping away and start trusting that God is actually guiding it. Because here's the secret: God speaks most clearly when you release your grip, when you stop trying to control every outcome, every timeline, every person, every detail. When you stop forcing the answer, you finally become available to receive it. That's why the moment you stop forcing, the flow returns. It's like a river carving its path through stone. The water doesn't argue. It doesn't strain. It doesn't panic. It moves consistently, patiently, faithfully, and over time, it reshapes the landscape. That's how divine guidance works. When you stop forcing solutions, life starts revealing answers. Through people who show up at the perfect time. Through experiences that expose what you need to see. Through synchronicities so precise you can't explain them away. Through sudden clarity that drops into your spirit like a light turning on in a dark room, and you begin to realize something that changes everything. You were never abandoned. You were never ignored. You were being guided quietly, carefully, intentionally, because divine communication isn't always dramatic. It isn't always thunder and lightning and loud announcements. Most of the time, it comes wrapped in ordinary moments. A phrase you keep hearing, a pattern you can't unseen, a pause that protects you, a closed door that later makes sense, a random delay that was actually divine restraint. God has been speaking, but you were being trained to hear him without needing noise. So here's the lesson, and it's more powerful than it sounds. Stop chasing life. Stop chasing approval. Stop chasing signs like you're trying to convince God to notice you. Stop demanding instant results to feel safe. The striving is not your calling. The anxiety is not your assignment. When you let go, the divine takes the lead, and the truth you've been searching for stops feeling like a mystery and starts becoming unavoidable, effortless, liberating. You won't have to hunt it down. It will meet you. It will find you. It will rise in you. And yes, silence can feel like emptiness, can feel like nothing is happening. But silence is often the loudest teacher. Chosen one, listen carefully. This didn't show up by accident, and it was never meant for everyone. The fact that you're seeing this right now is already a response to something God set in motion long before you even noticed. And I'm going to be real with you, there was a season in your life when you stopped responding. Not because you turned your back, not because you lost faith, but because life got heavy. Disappointment piled up. Delays stretched longer than you could carry. Prayers felt unanswered. Your emotions ran out of fuel, and little by little, all of that trained you to go quiet. You didn't walk away from God, you simply learned how to survive without constant reassurance. And God saw it. He didn't punish you for becoming silent. He waited because he knew the silence wasn't rebellion, it was endurance. There are moments from your past that still linger in your mind. Signs you dismissed, inner nudges you pushed aside, directions you almost followed but didn't, because you were exhausted from hoping and tired of being disappointed. But hear this clearly. This message exists because that season is ending. So lock in, because this next part is about you. God said, watch whenever it appears. Not once, not randomly, but whenever this message finds you, and that's because your spirit is finally aligned enough to receive what you couldn't hold before. After this divine moment, communication resumes, but it won't be loud or chaotic. It will be clear, calm, precise. You're about to recognize God's voice in ways that feel natural instead of overwhelming, through sudden understanding that drops into your spirit, through repeated patterns you can't ignore anymore, through pauses that protect you, and redirections that finally make sense. The reason you stopped responding wasn't because you were rejected. It was because you were being strengthened. And now God is reaching back out, not to rush you, but to realign you. What's coming next will not require you to force anything, chase anyone, or prove yourself to be worthy. It will recognize you. It will meet you without you begging for it. It will find you without you running yourself into the ground. And before we go deeper, I want you to take a moment and support this message like this video so it reaches who it's meant to reach. Subscribe and become part of a community that understands spiritual timing, not spiritual pressure. And share this with someone who has been feeling distant, confused, or spiritually quiet. And in the comments, write, "I'm ready to listen." Not for algorithms, this is a declaration, a signal, a spiritual agreement, and if something in you stirred while hearing this, stay with it until the end because this isn't entertainment, it's recognition, and the fact that your spirit is still here, that you're still listening already confirms something. This message is for you. Chosen one, God communicates most clearly when you stop forcing answers. Have you ever felt it? Like a message, a moment, or even a single thought entered your life at the exact right time, so precise it felt like the universe itself was nudging you. That's not coincidence. That's alignment. That's divine timing. And right now you're standing inside it. Chosen one, this reached you because the timing is no longer negotiable. There was a season when delay served a purpose, when waiting built your strength, when silence shaped your spirit, when pressure refined your character. But that season is over. You've reached a point in your journey where postponement is no longer necessary and alignment is no longer optional. What's been circling around you is now closing in. What you've been sensing is no longer a whisper. The signs are louder now, clearer, sharper, undeniable, like heaven is putting a spotlight on the exact doorway you're meant to walk through next. Life can look random from the surface, but it isn't. Not for you. Not anymore. The truth is far more precise. God moves like a master conductor, orchestrating every note of your existence, weaving timing into everything you thought was coincidence. And the reason you're receiving this now is simple. Your spirit has finally matched the frequency required to hold this kind of guidance. Not because you begged harder, but because you grew deeper. Think about a seed beneath the soil. For a while, nothing seems to happen. Because when God appears quiet, it's not because he left, it's because he's teaching you how to recognize him without the comfort of constant confirmation, how to walk by faith, not by proof, how to move with trust, not tension, how to become so grounded that even the quiet becomes guidance. It was never punishment. It was never neglect. It was preparation. Think of a blacksmith standing over raw metal. Before anything can be shaped, the metal must be placed into fire. The heat feels brutal, unforgiving, but that fire doesn't destroy, it strengthens. It makes the metal malleable, ready to be formed into something precise and powerful. In the same way, the seasons when God felt silent were not meant to break you. They were meant to refine you. Those quiet stretches of your life were shaping your character, fortifying your spirit, and preparing your heart for revelations deeper than anything you had known before. Every still moment, every heavy thought, every challenge carried a hidden purpose, even when you couldn't see it. You may have felt frustration during those times, loneliness, doubt that crept in quietly and lingered longer than you wanted. But those emotions weren't signs of failure, they were catalysts for growth. Without silence, without pause, you would not have developed the foundation required to hold what is coming next. It is in those gaps that your spiritual muscles were strengthened, your awareness sharpened, and your intuition trained to recognize truth without noise. The most transformative lessons are almost never learned in comfort. Divine silence forces you inward. It makes you confront yourself. It reveals patterns you were too busy to notice before, and it prepares you for alignment that demands strength, patience, and clarity. That silence was God saying, I am preparing you for something greater than you can imagine right now. And this leads to a question many chosen ones carry quietly. Why did you stop responding to divine signals? Why did certain signs, messages, or inner nudges pass you by even when you sensed them? It wasn't because you were unworthy. It wasn't because you were disconnected. It was because your soul was not yet ready to respond. Some callings require more than awareness, they require capacity. And at that time, you were already carrying enough. Your spirit is like a finely tuned instrument. When it's overwhelmed by emotional fatigue or spiritual exhaustion, even the clearest guidance can go unheard. You weren't rejecting God. You were being preserved. In its infinite wisdom, the divine sometimes redirects instead of accelerates. Signals become subtle. Guidance feels quiet, not to frustrate you, but to protect you from burnout and prepare you for a path that can be sustained, not survived. It's like a teacher assigning a lesson slightly beyond the student's current level. The lesson isn't meant to discourage, it's meant to stretch. And when the student grows, They return to that same lesson and suddenly understand it with clarity. What once felt confusing becomes obvious. This is how God works with you, with precision, with patience, making sure you are fully equipped before asking you to move. This is where a deeper truth emerges, what few speak about openly: divine delay. God does not wait out of neglect. He waits so you can rise. Every pause you experienced was intentional. Every moment of waiting was shaping you for the next level of your journey. Those delays refined your character, strengthened your discernment, and prepared you to receive what is meant for you without losing yourself in the process. Nothing was wasted, nothing was random, and now, because of that preparation, you are ready not just to receive the blessing, but to carry it. Consider how fruit must ripen on the tree before it can truly nourish. If it's picked too early, it might look ready, but it has no depth, no sweetness, no strength, no impact. And in the same way, divine delay is not God withholding from you. It's God allowing you to ripen. Every challenge you faced, every pause in your progress, every stretch of silence you endured was a preparation phase, quietly deepening your wisdom, sharpening your discernment, and building your spiritual authority. Divine delays are not failures. They are accelerators. They give you the space to rise, to evolve, to expand into the version of you that can actually carry what you've been praying for. Because when God finally moves, when guidance becomes undeniable and opportunities open, you are no longer a fragile soul fumbling for direction. You become someone anchored, someone aligned, someone who steps into purpose with confidence, clarity, and unshakable faith. And here's what will shock you when you look back. God's messages rarely arrive wearing a spotlight. They come disguised as the ordinary, a casual comment that hits your chest like truth, a number that follows you until you finally stop and notice, a dream that won't leave your mind, a random delay, a frustrating interaction with someone that reveals what you've been avoiding. At first glance, these moments feel trivial, annoying even, but they were never coincidence. They were divine language, coded nudges, gentle signals meant to guide you without overwhelming you. Think about the times a friend said exactly what you needed to hear without knowing what you were going through, or the unexpected situation that forced you to pause and reconsider a decision you were about to make too quickly. Those weren't accidents. Those were perfectly timed interruptions designed for your growth. Often, what you try to ignore is exactly what your soul needs to face. And the divine knows you. It knows that force would overwhelm you, so it uses subtlety. It uses repetition. It sends the same message through different doors until it finally lands. That's why the lesson is so profound. Pay attention to the whispers you've been brushing off. The small moments you dismiss are often carrying the keys to your transformation. When you embrace what once seemed insignificant, doors that looked locked begin to open because you finally see the pattern. You finally understand the point, and you realize God has been quietly steering you toward clarity, purpose, and alignment in the everyday places you overlooked. And then you reach a turning point, a moment in your spiritual journey where alignment shifts from effort to ease, where you stop trying to force life into place and start experiencing a flow that feels almost effortless. This is the moment spiritual power becomes automatic, not because life gets easy, but because you become steady. You stop chasing signs, blessings, and answers, and you begin attracting them naturally. Like they recognize you, like they know where you are. Imagine a skilled musician. In the beginning, they think about every note, every movement, and every mistake. But eventually, something changes. The music stops being calculated and becomes embodied. They don't try to play, they play. The sound flows through them. That's what happens when your spirit reaches readiness. Your intuition becomes a compass you trust. Your discernment sharpens without needing proof. Your connection to divine timing becomes instinct, natural, calm, undeniable. You don't panic when things slow down because you understand pauses. You don't chase what runs because you recognize what's meant for you. You don't force doors because you can feel when God is redirecting you. This is when you become dangerous to fear and powerful to your purpose because you move differently. You move with peace. You move with precision. You move with spiritual authority. And the more you live from that place, the more you realize something that changes everything. You were never behind. You were never forgotten. You were being ripened until the moment you were ready to nourish the world with what God placed inside you. Chosen one, when you reach this level, every step you take begins to align with your higher purpose without the stress, the confusion, or the constant inner struggle you used to carry. And let me be clear, this isn't passive. This isn't wishful thinking. This is the culmination of years of growth, patience, endurance, and self-refinement. Every silent season, every hard lesson, every moment you thought you were waiting for nothing. It was all building toward this shift until you finally allow the divine flow to move through you instead of feeling like you have to drag your life forward on your own. And when that happens, life transforms. Not because everything becomes perfect, but because everything becomes guided. You begin to notice synchronicities everywhere, people showing up at the exact right time, opportunities converging without you chasing them, doors opening with a strange ease that feels almost supernatural. It's as if the world begins confirming what your spirit already knows. You have stepped into spiritual mastery. Not the kind that's loud, but the kind that's undeniable, the kind where your life starts making sense in real time. And if life feels confusing right now, if it feels stagnant, uncertain, or like you don't know which way is forward, listen carefully. It doesn't mean you're lost. It usually means you're transitioning. It means you're evolving into a new version of yourself. You're not wandering aimlessly, you're standing in a sacred space of becoming, because real growth requires shedding old patterns, old beliefs, old behaviors, old attachments, the things that used to feel normal but no longer match who you're becoming. And that shedding can feel disorienting, can feel like you're in limbo, like you're in between identities. Think about a caterpillar in a cocoon. The world outside keeps moving, but inside, the transformation is intense, hidden, messy, sacred. That's what your soul is doing. In those in-between seasons, you're not failing. You're being refined. The confusion, the waiting, the feeling of being stuck, it's not punishment. It's preparation for a leap into your next level of purpose, clarity, and spiritual authority. And when you understand that, you stop panicking about the timeline and start honoring the process. You stop fearing the pause and start trusting what's happening underneath it. You are not stuck. You are upgrading. Every challenge, every delay, every unexpected disruption is evidence that the divine is actively reshaping your path, rerouting you, protecting you, aligning you, making sure that when you emerge from this phase, you don't just emerge relieved, you emerge stronger, wiser, clearer, and fully anchored in your calling. And this is where many people miss God, because his communication often doesn't come the way we expect. Comes subtle, comes repetitive, comes inconvenient. You'll notice recurring numbers that keep appearing like a signal flare. You'll hear the same advice from completely different sources. You'll experience interruptions that change your course at the last minute. And your first instinct might be to call it random, annoying, or meaningless. But it's not. Those are patterns designed to get your attention, designed to make you pause and reconsider where you're headed. Repetition is one of God's favorite tools, because repetition teaches the stubborn mind what the spirit already knows. It's like a teacher reinforcing a lesson until the student finally understands. And life will deliver the same message in different forms: dreams, conversations, signs, experiences, until your awareness rises enough to recognize its weight. That's not harassment. That's mercy. That's God refusing to let you miss what matters. And interruptions? Interruptions are protection in motion. A sudden challenge, a detour, a delay that frustrates you in the moment often reroutes you away from what would drain you and toward what will develop you. The beauty of divine guidance is that it can be persistent without being overwhelming. It will keep tapping your shoulder softly, steadily, until you turn your face toward what's true. And when you begin noticing these patterns and trusting their presence, clarity starts to rise like sunrise. You start realizing life isn't random. It's intricate. It's intentional. It's designed to align you with your highest good in ways subtle enough that you must participate and powerful enough that you cannot ignore, because life will tempt you to take shortcuts, to grab quick fixes, to demand immediate results just to relieve the pressure. But chosen one, hear this: shortcuts cost you in places you can't see yet. Quick fixes often come with hidden chains. And immediate results, if you're not ready, can become burdens instead of blessings. That's why God doesn't just give you what you ask for, he prepares you to hold it without losing yourself. But chosen one, God's wisdom has never been about speed. It's about timing, because speed can deliver something to you before you have the capacity to carry it. But divine timing ensures that when it arrives, you're ready to receive it, understand it, and integrate it without breaking. The easy path looks attractive because it promises relief, but so often it bypasses growth, and when growth is bypassed, the blessing becomes a burden. That's why God doesn't just open doors, he develops the person who's meant to walk through them. Think of a tree that bears fruit. If you harvest too early, it might still look like fruit, but it's small, sour, and underdeveloped. It doesn't nourish. It doesn't satisfy. But when it ripens at the perfect time, it becomes sweet, complete, and life-giving. That's what divine timing does. It ensures that opportunities, guidance, and blessings arrive when your heart, mind, and spirit are mature enough to embrace them with wisdom instead of fear. Patience isn't a delay, it's preparation. It's God deepening your roots so what grows in your life doesn't collapse under its own weight. And when you truly trust divine timing, something inside you shifts. You stop forcing situations. You stop trying to squeeze life into a timeline built from anxiety. You stop clinging to relationships, outcomes, or doors that require you to shrink just to keep them open. Instead, you allow life to unfold with power naturally, gracefully, in alignment with your purpose. And that shift changes everything. Frustration transforms into faith, anxiety melts into calm, and striving turns into attraction. The right things don't come because you chase them, they come because you've been prepared to receive them fully and with grace. And that's when discernment awakens. There comes a moment in your spiritual evolution when discernment rises like a lighthouse in heavy fog. The chaos quiets, the doubts weaken, the endless what-ifs stop controlling your mind, and suddenly you can see, not because the world became simple, but because your inner guidance matured. Confusion doesn't disappear by chance. It disappears because you've grown into clarity. You've been trained through pain, patience, and pressure to recognize what's real. This awakening usually comes after seasons that tested you. Seasons that stretched your boundaries, exposed hidden fears, and forced you to face uncomfortable truths you once avoided. Each trial sharpened your intuition like a blade. Each disappointment taught you what energy feels like when it's draining you. Each delay taught you the difference between divine restraint and human rejection. And then one day, almost without warning, you start noticing what you couldn't see before. The difference between false promises and divine direction, between what feeds you and what depletes you, between what sounds good and what's actually aligned. Discernment doesn't just understand, it's empowerment. When it arrives, you stop questioning every step. You stop negotiating with your instincts. You stop needing 100 confirmations to trust what you already know. Life becomes less about chasing and more about responding. Moments that used to trigger anxiety start delivering insight. People and opportunities start arriving with a familiar peace. And that calm authority you once thought was impossible becomes your new normal. And here's the truth that ties it all together. Many times, you didn't ignore spiritual nudges because you doubted they were real. You ignored them because they demanded growth. They demanded courage. They demanded that you step into unfamiliar territory, and transformation always asks for something from you. The messages you avoided weren't punishments. They were invitations. Invitations to expand your consciousness, your emotional capacity, your spiritual resilience. Think of a mountain climber staring at the peak. The path looks intimidating, steep, uncertain, demanding. But the view at the top, the perspective, the freedom, it can't be reached without the climb. And chosen one, that's what God has been doing in you, preparing your lungs for higher altitude, strengthening your legs for steeper ground, training your mind to keep moving when it feels easier to turn back. Because the next level of your calling isn't built for the version of you that needs constant reassurance, it's built for the version of you that can move with faith even when the path is quiet. And now you're closer than you think. That summit's the accomplishment, the freedom, the view that makes every difficult step worth it. And that's exactly how divine guidance works. It will challenge you. It will stretch you. It will call you beyond comfort zones you once swore you'd never leave. Not your interruptions. Not even the people who crossed your path for a moment and left you changed. Chosen one, God has been speaking through everything. And now you're finally tuned in. Chosen one, even the people who challenge you, the ones who frustrate you, test you, trigger you, are not outside the design. They are part of it. Not because you're meant to tolerate disrespect, but because God can use even opposition as instruction. Sometimes those people are mirrors. Sometimes they are warnings. Sometimes they are pressure that forces you to develop boundaries you never had. And sometimes they are the very resistance that pushes you into your next level of strength. What felt like disruption was often redirection. What felt like irritation was refinement. Because God doesn't just guide you through comfort, He guides you through contrast. He shows you what you are not by placing you near what you've outgrown. And that's why certain experiences keep repeating until you learn what they came to teach. Have you ever woken from a dream and felt it in your body like it was more than imagination, more than a random story? Have you ever noticed repeating numbers that followed you so consistently it became impossible to ignore? Those aren't coincidences. Those are codes, hidden signals the universe uses to communicate when traditional methods can't break through the noise of your conscious mind. Dreams speak in metaphor because your spirit understands symbols faster than your logic understands explanations. Numbers, sequences, repeated patterns, those are signposts. They pull your attention toward what matters most. And those sudden aha moments, that lightning bolt clarity that seems to appear from nowhere, that's not random either. That's the result of unseen work. Your soul has been doing, lessons stacking, reflections deepening, experiences merging until a truth finally rises to the surface at the exact moment you're ready to hold it. And when you start recognizing these codes, life becomes a living language, conversation. Nothing feels arbitrary anymore. Even the delays make sense. Even the detours start to look intentional. Even the closed doors begin to feel like protection instead of rejection. Because you realize something powerful. A force greater than you has been speaking the whole time, and now you're finally fluent enough to understand. That's why I need you to hear this part clearly. After this message, expect calm, expect clarity, expect alignment that you can't logically explain. Because once you receive this, not just hear it, but receive it, something inside you begins to shift. The tension you've been carrying starts to loosen. The anxiety about the future, the pressure to figure everything out, the confusion about your path, it begins to dissolve. Calm replaces chaos. Decisions stop feeling like battles. And uncertainty stops feeling like a threat. It starts feeling like an invitation to trust. This is the peace that comes when your spirit knows you're aligned, even if your mind doesn't have every detail yet. And as that peace settles, clarity follows naturally. You begin to see patterns you couldn't see before. You recognize why certain things didn't work out. You understand why certain people couldn't come with you. You finally see how the experiences that felt random were actually arranged. And it's not that life suddenly becomes perfect, it's that your awareness meets divine timing, and everything starts clicking into place like pieces of a puzzle turning the right direction. So yes, expect alignment, the unexplainable kind. Opportunities begin appearing at the right time, without you forcing them. Guidance arrives without you begging for it. Synchronicities multiply, so specific, so precise, you stop calling them coincidences. Doors you never expected to open swing wide. Relationships blossom in ways you didn't predict. Ideas download into your mind with a clarity that feels instantaneous. And the wild part is it feels effortless, like the universe shifted, like life is meeting you halfway. But the truth is deeper than that. It's not the universe changing, it's you becoming ready. God has been waiting for this moment, not because he was distant, but because he was preparing you to receive what would have overwhelmed you before. And now, because your spirit is finally in rhythm, everything begins moving in harmony with the rhythm of your destiny. And if you felt hesitant, if you felt a little afraid to fully step into what you're sensing, that's not weakness. That's a sign. It means you're standing at the threshold of a new version of yourself. Your hesitancy is natural because you can feel the weight of the upgrade. But the moment you finally face these messages, truly face them, you allow your soul to expand in ways that were previously impossible. What used to feel uncomfortable becomes the catalyst. What used to feel overwhelming becomes the doorway. And suddenly, every insight, every pause, every synchronicity is not only noticed, it's appreciated, because you've grown into the capacity to hold it. And here's the part you need to understand. This kind of growth isn't optional. Not for you. Not at this stage. This is the path. This is the only road that leads to the full expression of your spiritual potential. The comfort zone can never become the calling. The old level can never hold the new assignment. So yes, God will stretch you, but only because he knows what you're becoming. And once alignment is achieved, everything changes. Once alignment locks in, life begins to shift in ways you can't fake. You stop forcing outcomes. You stop chasing goals like you're running out of time. You stop searching for validation from people who don't even understand your assignment. Because something in you settles. You become centered. And from that centered place, you start attracting instead of striving. This is the spiritual phenomenon of attraction after alignment, the moment effort is replaced by ease. Not because you became lazy, but because you became aligned. Think about resonance, like attracts like. When your heart, mind, and spirit begin vibrating at a higher frequency, peace, clarity, integrity, faith, the world responds. It's not superstition, the spiritual law. Relationships that support your growth begin showing up without you begging for them. Opportunities that once felt impossible arrive with timing so perfect it makes you pause. Even circumstances that used to feel random begin falling into place with precision, as if your life is being arranged from the inside out. This isn't magic. It's the natural consequence of becoming who you were always meant to be. And the beauty of this stage is that life becomes less about struggle and more about flow. You become a magnet for clarity, guidance, and abundance because you're no longer scattered, no longer divided, no longer distracted. Everything and everyone that comes near you starts revealing whether it belongs. Every encounter begins serving a purpose, because once you align internally, the world aligns externally. And here's another truth that will change how you see your days. God connects through messengers and you thought it was random. Divine guidance rarely arrives in one dramatic moment. It travels through unexpected channels. A friend, a stranger, a book that just happened to fall into your hands, a dream that repeats itself, a song that says the exact words your spirit needed, even something as simple as a street sign or a phrase you overhear at the perfect time. At first, it feels coincidental, but the universe doesn't operate in chaos the way you've been taught to believe. Every messenger is selected, every encounter is timed, every random moment is often an instrument carrying a message meant specifically for you. Have you ever had a chance conversation that completely shifted your perspective? Or stumbled across a video, a quote, a resource that answered a question you didn't even know you were asking? Those aren't accidents. Those are divine messages wrapped in ordinary life so they can reach you without overwhelming you. Because God knows that sometimes you won't hear him if it's too loud, but you will notice him when he's persistent. And recognizing these messengers requires one thing: awareness. Openness, the willingness to see life as sacred, not just busy. Because once your eyes open to this, you can't unseen it. You start realizing the truth. Life was never random. Not your delays, not your detours,